Now that we have had time to talk at length about the DLC, I felt it was a great time to continue a fan favorite series, and that is me defending fan theories, no matter how out there or wild they are. I have to make an actual, palpable defense and effort for whatever it is you all come up with. Whether or not you even believe the theory to begin with is irrelevant. It's a bit of a challenge, but also an interesting way to explore another perspective of Xenoblade through someone else's eyes. It's largely for fun, but every now and then I come across some ideas I genuinely believe are possible, and that will be the focus for today. So I have these two comments here from the Trains 13 and Esteban Gaming. They're both dealing with Xenoblade X in some way, so I'm going to cover both today. And so, let's talk about Xenoblade X and its canonicity with the other games. So from my understanding, Xenoblade X was meant to be a spin-off after Xenoblade 1 and not connected to the story. Hell, even the intro for the game details an alien war with Earth and humanity just caught up in the middle, where humanity is forced to evacuate to anywhere else on board the ship entitled the White Whale, with only a handful of survivors to restart humanity somewhere else after Earth is destroyed. Well, if you played Xenoblade 2 before, this feels wildly counter to everything that we've learned. In Xenoblade 2, if we assume that the planet Klaus is coming from his Earth, or at least whatever planet humanity was on in that game, it was just never destroyed in an alien invasion. Sure, there was an attack, but the way it all ended was Klaus split the world in twain, creating the world of the Bionis and the world of all rest, using the conduit. That's just not what happened in Xenoblade X, at least from my understanding. So, it's completely different, right? Case closed. Well, yeah, but Esteban here went into further detail in another comment about how those two events could be one and the same. I haven't beaten Xenoblade X yet, and it does contain a lot of spoilers, so I don't have that lore knowledge to make a judgment or a defense for it, but I honestly don't think I need it, because I think one of the best defenses for this particular subject doesn't even have to come in the form or perspective of lore or anything like that. I think the best defense to have Xenoblade X fit in with the lore is twofold. One, it's just cool. Like, I don't know what else to say there. It's just freaking cool. It's all the best parts of sci-fi in a lot of ways, just without interplanetary travel. And if they really want to, they can make it work. Yeah, we kind of overlook this basic concept as theorycrafters a lot of the time, trying to draw connections between dots that may not even be there, when the writers can just make up whatever mechanism or reasoning that they want, if they truly desire to bring one game into canon or not. Heck, honestly, I think Xenoblade 2 had a decent enough excuse in the DLC, despite the fact that the DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is not even canon, I believe. Just have the Nopon Arc Sage be able to teleport or transport characters like Elma over to the numbered game's continuity. Job done. So the second reason is more of a confirmation if you really think about it. Klaus kind of admits it. Now, it was in that one cutscene that every Xenoblade game has to have, where they shove all the world exposition into like a 5-minute cutscene and expects you to remember it all. But yeah, he does kind of say that countless worlds exist side by side. And if he wasn't exaggerating with the word countless, then if you want to connect the numbered games to X and bring it into the canon, you just have one of those seemingly infinite worlds be X. Be Mira. Have a device like the Conduit or heck, some world-bridging device, and just make a door into each world. Or have the worlds collide like Xenoblade 1 and 2 were going to do in 3 if it wasn't for Origin. Sure, you may be able to call it hand-wavy, but I honestly don't mind. Now, why don't I mind? Well, we go back to the first defense that I was talking about. Xenoblade X is just simply cool. Some of the best zone design in gaming, cool characters, amazing music, and awesome mechanics. Oh right, and giant freaking robots. Look, I'm sorry, but I'd love to see all that stuff again. And if it requires a bit of hand-wavy many-worlds theory stuff to make it happen, then I don't really care. Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 have extremely strong characterization, large dynamic worlds, and a phenomenal narrative that ties it all together. The combat is also immensely satisfying. However, Xenoblade X focuses on different elements of what makes a video game. It focuses largely on its gameplay and world exploration. You take the best of both worlds and combine them and make a game using those strengths in one cohesive package, and you might have a new contender for my favorite game in the franchise. And sure, you could just take the mechanical design philosophies from X and use them in Xenoblade Chronicles 4, but X is such a cool world filled with cool characters that just weren't really expanded on, at least to the degree of a numbered game. Again, I haven't finished it, but I'm nearing the end, and I got a feeling that my points for X are going to stand despite the fact I haven't beaten the game yet. You give those mechanics room to breathe and expand on, and I really think a great game can be the result. because we already had X, which was a great game. You pair that with like the narrative prowess of a Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3, and we're golden. Xenoblade X is such an interesting example of how sometimes the quality of the game doesn't directly translate to success. X has flaws, absolutely, one of them being on the Wii U, not denying that, but there are aspects to X that are simply incredible, that even to this day I haven't really seen replicated to the degree that X nailed these respective aspects, like world design and exploration and just that sense of scale. Like, sure, absolutely, the worlds of Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring are phenomenal to explore. I love them. They go off a lot of those similar open-world design philosophies that I've talked about before in previous videos that Xenoblade X had. However, and this is a very important point here, they didn't have giant robots that you could ride around on. Kind of a big point for me. Why? Because I like giant freaking robots. Who doesn't like them? They're giant, and they're robots. What's not to like? And they transform like Optimus Prime. Look, all you need to hear me say is Autobots roll out and we're good. And besides the cool aspect, those skeletons gave you multiple forms of navigation across the world. And maybe it's just that I don't want X and its style of open world to be left to the wayside, especially for Xenoblade as a series. But for a series predicated on its giant and unique world design and set pieces, you've rarely had the sense of freedom that X invokes, where if you see it in the world, you know there's a way for you to reach it at some point. It was one of X's selling points. In X, even right out the gate at level 1, you had a massive jump and no fall damage, which was already a recipe for maneuverability and exploration and non-linearity. However, you pair that with the scale mechanic, where you could jump even higher and farther and fight even stronger enemies that you may not have been able to take on before, and it changes the sense of the scale of the world. You can maneuver around it, get to places you couldn't before, get from point A to point B faster than you could before. It changes fundamentally how you tackle the world and how you see and interpret the world whenever you're on foot or in the scale, let alone when you get the flight license. The game opened up new ways to tackle its world as the game progressed. Exploring the world was part of the content, and for a series that is built on its worlds, I feel like they have never revisited this style of exploration to its fullest. Funnily enough, going back to why I think Xenoblade X isn't done in the series, at least philosophically, let's go back to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the latest entry in the series. It was one of the main reasons I think they want to focus on X a bit more in the future. Maybe even leading to an X remaster at some point, since the world of Ionios was way more in line with the style of exploration found in X than in the first 2 games. Now, what do I mean by that? Sure, not everywhere was accessible. I still want to climb upon the back of Uriah. I would love to do that. But a dang good chunk of the game was, and it gave you new ways to explore it as the game progressed with its Metroidvania take on the field skill system from Xenoblade 2, where it was just a singular power-up that you unlock either through the main story or through certain side quests. Plus, interlinks are speed boost, and being usable outside of combat away from essentially replicating the scale system, at least outside of vehicle mode. Bring that back. We did get the boat, by the way, and it feels like they are dipping their toes back into those design philosophies in terms of how to navigate the open world of a Xenoblade game. And to me, that's a good thing. That's a very, very good thing. Because if we're talking just about the numbered games, 1, 2, and 3, 2 is my favorite world story-wise, and aesthetically-wise. Xenoblade 1 is my favorite zone design. Xenoblade 3 is my favorite zone exploration. Again, not counting X. Why? Because 3 leaned more on those design principles of X. Like, it was baby steps to be sure, but there was at least steps in the direction. And you pair that all up with how easy it would be for them to write in X into the lore and the growing interest in the series as a whole, and it wouldn't surprise me to see a larger emphasis placed on X in the coming years. Maybe we even get an X Definitive Edition at some point or not. But I can easily see them leaning more into those X design principles in the future, because mechanically I think that's exactly the direction to take this series, and I think it's the one they are taking with it. Because Xenoblade X is a cool game with a cool world, and while its characters may not be up to the level of Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 in my opinion, they are still cool with their own cool ideas. And it's just a diamond, waiting, sitting there to be polished, and expanded on, fleshed out, and iterated upon. And that almost seemingly untapped reservoir of potential just feels too good to be left to the wayside in my opinion. And that's my main reason for thinking that Xenoblade X will at least come up again in the future. Maybe they don't bring it into the canon, maybe they just keep it as a separate world they can expand on. Maybe they do bring it into the canon just to get Skells in there, and maybe bring Elma back into the lore. But if they want to do X again, they can easily do it. I could see an X Definitive Edition coming out at some point in the future. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they get a sequel out for X at some point. I would assume a Definitive Edition for X would be first, though. Because I would love to see how successful a game like X would be on a system that is way more popular than its predecessor. So I'm going to call the video there for today. Thank you for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day. Leave a comment down below with your experience with Xenoblade Chronicles X. And how did you like the world exploration in that game? And what was your favorite zone? And if you haven't played it, what zone appeals at least the most to you aesthetically? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and hear your perspectives. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.